So I get drowsy when I take antihistamine tablets. And it means that I start yawning a little bit more. I might get a little bit sleepy during class. And imagine if I was teaching a class and all of a sudden, oh, you see me yawning. And then one thing might lead to another. And from there, I'll keep yawning and I might just nod off. I might just doze off. Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to British English Pod with me, Lewis, and this week the topic is all about spring. Ah, beautiful. Finally, spring has sprung. We are now in warmer times. Winter is over. We have longer days as well, so everything is on the up, at least here in Europe. I'm thinking, wow, now it doesn't get dark until 8 o'clock, 8:30, compared to when it was getting dark just a couple of months ago at around about 4 and 5 o'clock. So honestly, I cannot stress with you enough how much it cheers me up to see that days are longer. It means that when I finish work and I finish teaching my classes many days at 8 p.m., it's still light. Because in winter, when I'm teaching and I'm teaching my afternoon classes from 5 until 8 or 9, I'm sat here in darkness. And it's not really good for your mood. So I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing that spring is here. And buzzing, remember, is a very British colloquial slang way of saying I'm excited. I'm excited that spring is here. And of course, as usual, I am pre-recording this podcast slightly before it will be released. But the day it will be released is Good Friday. So this year, Good Friday is the 3rd of April. And I know many people who are listening to the podcast are based in Europe. I know there'll be lots of people in Spain and Italy. And usually, Catholicism, being religious, is quite an important thing in these countries. Of course, it depends. Everybody is different. But I know from my past and my experience living in Seville in the past how integral Easter is to the beginning of spring. It's kind of weird because in the UK, in England, we celebrate Easter essentially by eating chocolate. So we eat chocolate eggs. If you go to the UK nowadays, around different supermarkets, you'll see mini eggs, Cadbury's cream eggs, and lots and lots and lots of different Easter eggs. And when I was growing up, of course, I loved chocolate. I was a chocoholic. So whenever my grandparents or aunt and uncle came to visit me around Easter time, they would bring me an Easter egg. And I'd be so excited. I'd be so grateful. I'd be like, oh, I love you. Thank you so much. You've made my day. Because I was a chocoholic. I was addicted to chocolate. And, well, this was the highlight of Easter. I got to eat lots and lots of chocolate without my parents telling me off, without them disciplining me or punishing me. So that is really how we celebrate Easter in the UK. Of course, if you are religious, you might go to Mass, you might go to church. But in my case, I celebrated Easter, well, by eating chocolate. And there are a few symbols of Easter. Easter bunnies, for example, Easter eggs. These are the main ones. But I know many people will ask me, Lewis, what do you call the Sunday before Easter Sunday? With that in mind, I thought I would teach you this before we get started with the class. So, this year, what date is it? The 27th of March is Palm Sunday. And Palm Sunday is the Sunday before Easter, and it commemorates Jesus entering Jerusalem. And people traditionally would carry palm branches. Then you have a few normal days, let's say, without too many celebrations, until you have Holy Thursday or Maundy Thursday. And this is the Thursday before Easter. And it remembers the Last Supper, this last meal. And Maundy, this adjective, comes from a word meaning commandment, to love one another. The next day, is today, if you're listening to this or watching it when it is released, it is Good Friday. So this year, the 3rd of April is Good Friday. And it's the Friday before Easter, and it marks the crucifixion of Jesus. And it's a solemn, reflective day. After that, you have Holy Saturday, which is the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. And it represents the time that Jesus lay in the tomb. And it's a quiet, waiting day. And then the most important day for Christians, Catholics, is Easter Sunday, which celebrates the resurrection of Jesus. And it is associated with joy, new life, and renewal. And for a lot of people who are believers, who are religious, the 40 days before Easter, they will do Lent. This is something my mum mentioned a couple of months ago. And it is when you will maybe fast or you'll give something up and you'll be reflecting on life during this period. My mum, she actually gives up chocolate for 40 days before Easter. And then, after Easter Sunday, you have the last day, which is Easter Monday, which can be a public holiday in some countries, but not all of them. In the UK, I believe we have a long weekend for Easter, and it is Friday and I think Monday that are the bank holidays, the days off. And this is a time associated with rest. So there you go. I apologize if this bored you and if you're not into this topic, but I have a lot of students from Seville because that's where I used to live. And I teach a law firm, and people who work for this law firm really enjoy celebrating Easter in Seville, Holy Week in Seville, with lots of processions, lots of masses, and it's quite an unusual but enriching and interesting experience. So a lot of these students have been asking me, Lewis, how do you say this in English? How do you say that in English? How do you say the other thing in English? So I thought we could start this podcast with me teaching you a little bit about Easter and important Easter days in English. And that's enough where that is. And tell me, do you celebrate Easter? Do you celebrate religiously, or do you just celebrate eating chocolate, like I do? And now let's kick off. And first of all, spring. How does it compare to other seasons? Now, of course, the 4 seasons in English are winter, spring, summer, and autumn. In the United States, however, they say fall instead of autumn. And spring, well, I think is a great season because it is a new beginning. After a long time of bad weather, as I said, shorter days, darker days, you have new life. Plants are starting to flourish, to blossom, to bloom. You have animals that are coming out of hibernation. So I think spring is a great time where usually the weather is quite good. It can be a little bit unpredictable, but it's pretty good on the whole. Then summer is when most people have a lot of time off because they'll go on holiday, and you have very long days and you have hot days. So for most people, summer is the best season. And I think I agree with them, unless you already live in a very, very warm country. So if you live in the south of Europe, maybe summer is a little bit too hot for you. But if you live in the north of Europe, well, summer is the bee's knees. It is the bee's knees, which is a nice slang phrase, which means it's the best. It's incredible. It is the bee's knees. Then, well, as summer comes to an end, autumn appears, where the weather isn't too bad, but you start to notice that it gets a little bit breezy, a little bit windy, and days start to get shorter. We start to look ahead to Halloween, for example. My birthday is in autumn, so I don't mind autumn. And during this period of time, well, the leaves start to fall and parks start to look, well, in some cases beautiful, full of different colors. You have some shades of brown and orange as leaves change color before they fall on the ground. And after that, we have winter. And I had a chat with my mum about winter on the podcast a few months ago, and we came to the same conclusion that winter is probably the worst season because, it's cold, it's wet, it might snow, days are so short, you have fewer options that you can do. So in the end, all people do, at least all I do, is sit at home, chill out, work, watch lots of series and lots of films, and kind of wait for the time to fly by and go by before spring is back. And spring is back, which is why I'm full of beans. I'm full of energy today because spring is here. And on the podcast a few weeks ago, I was teaching you and reviewing different ways to say that it is raining a lot. Because in spring, in many countries, it does tend to rain quite a fair bit. So, of course, this common idiom, which is taught a lot but not very commonly used by native speakers, is that it is raining cats and dogs. But here's another recap of the more common ways to say that it's raining heavily. 1. It's pouring it down. Sometimes in April, it pours it down. 2. It's pissing it down. It's absolutely pissing it down. 3. It's raining heavily. This is a very generic way of putting it. 4. It's lashing it down. It's lashing it down. 5. It's chucking it down. It's chucking it down. And 6, it is bucketing it down. It's bucketing it down. So that being said, when was the last time that you got stuck in a downpour. And a downpour is a way of saying a period or a moment of heavy rain. Let me think. I'd say the last time that I got stuck in a downpour was. When was it? It happens quite a bit, to be honest. And I like going for a walk. I need to get out of the house because I'm teaching inside all of the time. So when I have my breaks, I try to go outside. And sometimes you look at the clouds and think, uh-oh, it looks like it's going to start to piss it down, to pour it down, to lash it down, to bucket it down. And of course, I'll have my coat, but I never really take an umbrella with me. And as I'm going for a walk, I might see in the distance this dark cloud approaching. And then the heavens open and I get stuck in a downpour. So the last time I got stuck in a downpour was probably just a few weeks ago, because here in Brussels, it rains quite a lot. It doesn't rain as much as it does back home, near Leeds in the north of England, but it still rains quite a bit. We're definitely not living in Spain anymore, that's for sure. But hey, this winter, by the sounds of it, it's been pretty wet in Spain as well. Who knows? Maybe it's climate change. I'm not sure. It could be global warming. I've got no idea. Now, let me discuss and debate a few different opinions. So, the first question is spring. Spring is the best season of the year. What do I think? Do I agree or do I disagree? I'm not sure. I think summer is usually the best season of the year. Spring is probably a close second, but there are some disadvantages of spring. And the main disadvantage of spring, in my opinion, is pollen. Yes, pollen. As parks and flowers and trees start to become full with flowers and branches, and they start to grow, well, there's a downside to this scenario. And it is that you have more and more tree and grass pollen. And a lot of people, myself included, are allergic to this pollen. So I have hay fever. I have hay fever. That is what we call this type of allergy to pollen. So, yes, I have hay fever. What about you? Do you have hay fever? Do you have an allergy to pollen? Because what happens to me, and you'll probably notice that it'll start to happen to me in the next few weeks as I'm recording this podcast, I might have to pause and stop because all of a sudden my eyes might start to water a little bit more. My nose might start to get a little bit itchy, and then I'll need to blow my nose. And, well, I sneeze. I sneeze a lot in spring, and sometimes in summer as well, because I have hay fever, and I'm constantly, achoo, achoo, achoo. I can't stop sneezing. So that is the big downside of spring, in my opinion. Because, sometimes it can be a nightmare when I've got hay fever. And of course, you might be thinking, Lewis, why don't you take antihistamine tablets? And I do. I do take antihistamine tablets. But sometimes they're not that effective. They don't work that well. So I'll take them, and maybe I sneeze a little bit less, and my eyes are a little bit less itchy. But it doesn't mean that I feel 100% myself. And antihistamine tablets, many of them have a common side effect. What is this side effect, you ask? Well, it is that it can make you drowsy. Antihistamine pills make you drowsy. And drowsy is another way of saying sleepy, tired. So I get drowsy when I take antihistamine tablets. And it means that I start yawning a little bit more. I might get a little bit sleepy during class. And imagine if I was teaching a class and all of a sudden, oh, you see me yawning. And then one thing might lead to another. And from there, I'll keep yawning and I might just nod off. I might just doze off. Ugh. Sorry. I think I nodded off. I think I dozed off and I started snoring. Oh, what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare. And there you have a couple of advanced colloquial phrasal verbs. We had nod off and doze off, and it is to fall asleep. So anyway, taking antihistamine pills when it is spring and you have hay fever, it has its downsides because you can get drowsy. You get too sleepy. So to sum up, no, I do not think that spring is the best season of the year. Now allow me to discuss another one. How about, the third opinion? And it is modern life has disconnected us from nature. Modern life has disconnected us from nature. Now, I think maybe 9 out of 10 of you will probably agree with me. Maybe even more, because I live in a big city, and I guess most of you live in a big city. And if we live in big cities, then of course, modern life has disconnected us from nature. And this phenomenon is getting more and more common, that people are moving from small villages and small towns to bigger cities, not necessarily the capital city, but, a regional capital. So in the past, we used to have a much more rural lifestyle, where maybe your grandparents or your parents or your great grandparents would have had their own hens, or they might have had their own cows. They might have had their own lamb and sheep. And it was much more common to live off the land, to plant your own vegetables and cook what you had been creating yourself. And this, I think, is quite a beautiful thing, to be able to have this direct connection with nature, to live in the countryside and live off the land. And it reminds me of something. And it is that there's a guy, and I don't follow him on Instagram, but sometimes his videos pop up, sometimes they appear, and he is teaching really old-fashioned ways of cooking traditional dishes. And he clearly lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere with beautiful landscapes and lots of trees and hills and fields. And you see him connecting with animals to, for example, milk a cow, and he will collect the eggs that hens will lay in his farm. And I'm not saying this is the lifestyle I want, but I do look at it and think, okay, it looks really rewarding how you can raise different animals and then get food from them. and how you can plant vegetables and herbs and then eat them. It is like farm to plate, which I think is a great philosophy. So it's not something I do, and I think it's something that fewer and fewer people do at the moment. But for sure, modern life, modern city life, has disconnected us from nature. Absolutely. Now let's move on. I'm not going to discuss many more of these questions and debates because one thing that happened just last weekend in, I think, all of Europe practically is daylight savings. And daylight savings happens twice per year. It happens at the end of March and at the end of October. It happens in the UK, it happens in Spain, it happens in Belgium, in the 3 places where I've lived for the longest amount of time. And I'm sure you always wonder, are we losing an hour or are we gaining an hour? Do we get to stay in bed for an extra hour or do we have to wake up an hour earlier? Well, I have a little trick for you. I guarantee it's going to be useful. So, here goes. Do clocks go forward or go backwards? As I mentioned to you, in American English, they say fall. And fall is the equivalent of autumn. So, in fall, in autumn, they go back. So remember, fall back. As a result, you gain an hour's sleep because they go back. If it is 3 o'clock in the morning, then all of a sudden, like magic, it's 2 o'clock. So you get an extra hour in bed. Now, last weekend, what just happened is, well, in spring, they spring forward. They jump forward. So what happened last weekend was, disappointingly, we lost an hour's sleep because the clocks went forward. So, did you know the trick? Let me know in the comments if you were already aware of this trick or not. I've known about this trick for so long, but I always forget. But the only way that now it's stuck in my memory and I've learned it off by heart is by thinking and telling myself, spring forward, fall back. Spring forward, fall back. One more time, spring forward, fall back. But hey, how about a dialogue? So I'm going to read this upcoming dialogue between 2 people, Emma and James, and they have a chat about spring and what spring represents. And then we'll have a look at some of the advanced words and phrases from the conversation. Are you ready? Let's go. Emma, have you noticed how everything feels different now that spring has arrived? There's this sense of renewal in the air. James, absolutely. I didn't realize how much the winter gloom was affecting me until the days started getting longer. It's like I've got my motivation back. Emma, same here. I've even started waking up earlier to go for walks. The park near my flat is full of blossoming trees. It's quite uplifting. James, that sounds ideal. I've been meaning to get back into some healthier habits myself. Winter always makes me a bit sluggish. Emma, I think that's quite common. Spring tends to encourage people to reset, whether it's their routines, diet, or even their mindset. James, speaking of resetting, have you done any spring cleaning yet? Emma, I have, actually. I spent the whole weekend decluttering my flat. It felt incredibly satisfying to get rid of things I no longer use. James, I should probably do the same. I've accumulated so much over the past year. It's a bit overwhelming. Emma, you'd be surprised how much lighter you feel afterwards. It's not just physical space, it clears your mind too. James, that makes sense. Maybe I'll start small and work my way through it. Emma, that's the best approach. No need to do everything at once. Little by little, you'll notice a big difference. Woo, woo, woo! So there we have that short dialogue between Emma and James, including some advanced words and phrases, such as gloom, blossoming, uplifting, sluggish, spring cleaning, decluttering, overwhelming, clears your mind, work your way through. So, let's review these advanced words that appeared in this text. And no worries if you're not watching and you're just listening, but now you can see these keywords on the left and you can see some possible synonyms on the right. So what I'm going to do is select these words and match them with their synonyms, just like I do in my classes. Because of course, as always, this week with my British English Immersion Club, my monthly subscription for group classes, we have a different topic every week, and this week we've been chatting about spring. So if you'd like to join my classes, there's a link in the video description, and well, if you do join, I'll see you in class next week. Fingers crossed. But let's kick off. Let's get started with gloom. What does gloom mean? Well, gloom is a way of saying darkness or pessimism. They mentioned the winter gloom, meaning winter darkness, winter pessimism. The second word is blossoming. Blossoming. If the trees are blossoming, it means that they are blooming or they are flourishing. The plants flourished. They blossomed. The third word is uplifting. It could be uplifting news, an uplifting mood. So if something is uplifting, it's kind of like saying motivating. It's a very uplifting time, a motivating time. The fourth word is sluggish. If you think of the insect, a slug, then that'll help you quite a lot. If you feel sluggish, you feel a bit slow and a bit lazy. To be honest, I had a big lunch before I started recording this, so I still feel a bit full and a bit sluggish. The fifth word is spring cleaning. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you do this at spring, but we call it spring cleaning anyway, because it's a way of showing that you're cleaning to, well, start afresh, to make sure everything is as clean as possible. So spring cleaning is basically just a big, general, generic cleaning session. And now the sixth word. This is something that my mum needs to do because she has a spare room full of random stuff. She needs to declutter. And if you are decluttering, you are getting rid of things. You're throwing things away. I'm a minimalist, so I don't have a lot of clutter. I don't need to declutter. Now, wait. I take it back. I take it back. Because decluttering is in fact removing old or useless physical stuff, which, to be honest, is a synonym of getting rid of old physical stuff. So if you get rid of things, you throw them away. And if you're decluttering, you're getting rid of a lot of old or useless physical stuff. Apologies. Forgive me. Let me off. After that, we have overwhelming. If something is overwhelming, it's basically stressful. I could say that going to Seville for Easter can be a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of things happening. It can be a little bit stressful. Then, if you clear your mind, you essentially relieve stress or anxiety and you can think clearly. And then the 10th phrase is work your way through something. If you work your way through something, you do jobs or work bit by bit. Let's say that I need to declutter my flat. And, well, you can work your way through it bit by bit. You can do it bit by bit. All right, now some final quick questions before we wrap it up, because I've got class in exactly 6 minutes. And I have 6 conversation questions. So, let's answer them. Do you feel more sluggish in winter? I'd say yes. Usually I do feel much more sluggish in winter compared to spring and summer because it's cold, it's gloomy, and it's wet. So I can't be bothered to do anything. Number 2, are you in need of decluttering? No, I don't think I'm in need of decluttering because I don't have that much stuff. But there are a few things that I should get rid of. A few old things that I could throw away. But decluttering as a whole, I don't think it's necessary. Number 3, have you noticed any flowers blossoming near you? Absolutely. You know, when I go on my walks, I can see how seasons change the landscape of flowers and plants and trees. So I've noticed in the last week or so that a lot more flowers have been blossoming, flourishing, blooming, and it's beautiful. Number 4, how often do you do spring cleaning? Uh-oh. I have to confess, I have to admit that I clean up after myself. You know, I do my laundry, I do the dishes, but when it comes to a big spring cleaning session, it tends to be my fiance. It sounds terrible, I know, but I'm very lazy when it comes to cleaning. So how often do I do it? Maybe once a month. And I know, it's not enough. I apologize. And number 5, what's the best way to clear your mind? I would say that the best way to clear my mind is by going for a run and listening to some really good tunes, some really good music. That way, I'm doing exercise, so my mind is focused on other things, and the music helps to keep me motivated as well. So that is the best way for me to clear my mind. And finally, have you seen any uplifting videos recently? Yes. Yes. And I'm going to share it with you because especially people who are based in Spain or Andalusia will know who I'm speaking about. So there is a boy who is adorable, really charismatic. I think his name is Leo, but I don't remember exactly. And he's been all over social media for the last 6 months, year, because he needs a specific type of medicine for a condition that he has, which affects his skin and his joints and his bones. And the poor thing, the poor guy, I feel so sorry for him. And he's got the best attitude, a perfect positive attitude. So he's been campaigning on social media with help from other people and I think his mum to get a specific medicine approved in Andalusia, in Spain. And just a month ago, maybe, it was announced that the campaign had been successful. So all of his videos and messages had reached the right people. He had come to Brussels to give a little bit of a speech. And then politicians back in Spain also approved this drug that will help to relieve a lot of his pain. And I think his name was Leo. And I was watching the videos, and honestly, I was like crying a little bit because I was seeing how excited he was. And it's not often that we have good news, but since I had been following this guy's pursuit for this drug for months, and then I saw that it had been granted, it put a huge smile on my face, and it brought a tear to my eye as well. So that is a very uplifting video. If you don't know who I'm speaking about, then I apologize, but it's essentially a cute, adorable boy who's very positive in the face of a very negative situation, and what he had been striving for and trying to achieve, well, he made it. He did it. And that is heartwarming. And I'm going to finish on that note. So, thank you so much for watching or listening to this latest episode of British English Pod with me, Lewis, all about spring. And I'll see you next time, and have a great Easter. Bye!